haven't done in a while is breathed.
Jesus, I forgot about breathing.
I also, breathed doesn't sound like a word. I kind of feel like I should have said brunth. Which isn't, it's, super not a word.
Breathed. Breathe.
Breathed.
Breathed. Breathed your deepest breath.
We've not breathed in quite a while.
Many moons.
Would you like to take... Hey, wait, we could just leave all this in. Remember we've talked about inviting people to take a breath with us?
Yeah.
We can just take a breath. Take a brunth?
Yeah, let's all take a brunth.
Ready, set, go.
Man, I feel like I was clearing out some rust
Excellent.
there.
Excellent. Wonderful. That's good. All right, I'm just going to keep going. Cinnamon's all up in my face. We're ready to go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to I Scream, You Scream. We are your weekly scoop of the most chilling histories, mysteries, and paranormal perplexities. My name is Kathryn.
I'm Gina.
And we are talking about ghosts this month. And in celebration of the end of the year and the wind down season, we will be telling stories along with a cocktail. Before we jump into the story, we want to give a quick shout out to our new Patreon member, Kiera. Thank you so much for joining us. We're very excited to have you. And if any of you listening want to join the fun over on Patreon, link will always be in the show notes. We've got behind the scenes content, bonus mini-sodes, a whole bunch of good stuff. Until then, grab a spoon and let's dig in. I should say grab a cocktail today.
Grab a drink.
What drink are you drinking?
Kind of a Negroni, but I didn't have sweet vermouth, so it's with dry vermouth. So it's not great, but it is serviceable.
I cannot even begin to describe how much that means literally nothing to me. I know that vermouth is a thing that goes into cocktails that I like, and that's all I know. Sweet, dry, I couldn't tell you the difference. I imagine one is sweet and one is dry, that's the extent.
That's the difference. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So which one did you say you have?
I have dry. I have dry. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're supposed to make it with
But typically it's made with sweet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
What do you got going in your little cup there?
I've got a little Irish coffee situation, but I'm using I should have pulled out my holiday mug, but I kept out my little skeleton mug for the ghost story season. So I'm still rocking with my skull.
I have something to tell you, and we can edit it out.
I was going to say, you seem like you have something to say.
I saw this.
Okay.
I saw this thing on Instagram, and I don't know if it's true, but it's been fucking me up. Well, not fucking me up. It's been energizing me with glee for like a week.
Okay.
You remember the DARE program at school?
Yeah.
That was a pyramid scheme, according to what I saw on Instagram.
Oh, well.
Not surprising.
I've never heard it described that way, but yes, but it's one of those, I'm having one of those moments where I'm like, yeah, duh, but not duh to you. Yeah. It's duh like a light bulb. Like yeah, of course. Why would it not be?
Right. That was my reaction,
I could see that, yeah.
It wasn't like, a traditional pyramid scheme, but the way that it was run, apparently, was like you would be, the cop or whoever that goes and like joins the program and goes to talk at schools. And then you would get like more out of it if you got other cops to also do it. And on and on and on it went. So very fucking pyramid scheme.
That had to have been a result of like the war on drugs.
Had to have been.
That's a stupid thing for me to say because it's got to be that obvious, right?
Yeah.
Like it was just another stupid thing that they were distracting us with when other bigger, more important things were going on. I hate DARE, and let me explain to you why. Because I have a personal vendetta against our DARE cop, who was very mean to me. I was sitting at my desk, and a little piece of shit that I hate, who will remain nameless because I hate him so much, I don't want anyone to ever hear me utter his name.
Nice.
May he rot in hell. He's still alive, but someday he'll be there. So this guy sucked, and he sat next to me. He sat next to, we had one of those, it was like 4 desks to a little pod, we were all like stacked around each other, and so he was sitting next to me but facing like the other direction, like whatever, and he kept turning to me and like bugging me, and I was a good student and I was paying attention, And I turned to him and I said something like, you need to stop talking. I'm trying to pay attention. And she whips around and looks directly at me and is like, I have heard enough out of you. If you're going to talk the whole time, blah, blah, blah. She starts laying into me like I was the one talking the whole time. And I'm like, girlfriend, I'm trying to have your back. This guy's been talking through your whole presentation and I just told him to stop. Like, what the hell? But I didn't say any of that because I was shy as fuck when I was little. So I just let her yell at me. And I think of that all the time to this day. I've like very few regrets in my life, but one of my regrets on my list of like 3 in my whole life is not sticking up for myself because I was so mad. She made me go sit in the hall.
Oh my God.
I'm like really getting heated. I was so mad. So anyway, Mrs. Reed, if you're listening, that cop that you invited into your classroom for a dare was very mean to me. And I wish that I had said something about it because Mrs. Reed had my back. She knew I was a good student. It was like one of those like teacher left.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't there because she knew that that boy would bug me. And the reason I sat by him is because she knew that I could handle him, which is like a whole other issue that we shouldn't do that to children. But like Mrs. Reed was great. We love her. But it was one of those moments where I was like, damn, if only Mrs. Reed was here, she could stick up for me, blah, blah, blah. And as an adult, I'm like, damn, I wish I had said something. Because, like,
Yeah.
But I was a child, and I was scared, and she shouldn't have been mean to me. So anyway, fuck Dare and all the Dare cops out there.
Agreed. Fucking agreed. Do drugs.
Do drugs and crime, but only fun crime.
Non-violent.
Not mean crime.
Yeah. Nice crime.
Well, yeah, actually, yeah. Non-violent crime. We can say that publicly. We'll talk later privately.
It's just occurring to me that we should maybe explain what dare is, because I don't think they have that over here.
Oh, yeah, I'm being very American-centric.
I don't remember, what did it even stand for? What was the acronym? Drugs and alcohol.
Drugs are really exciting.
Do a recreational ecstasy.
Just one, though.
Just the one.
Any more is a little bit weird.
No, I have no idea. I can't. I'm going to look it up because this is going to bother me. Drug abuse resistance education, which tells you everything you need to know. And they brought cops in to do it. Tell you what, though, the best part of Dare was...
Tell you what, though.
They like, at one point, they brought us outside and they had like a golf cart and they put beer goggles on us and we had to drive the golf cart to simulate driving drunk. And I was so fucking good at it. I didn't hit a single cone.
You told me this. I remember when you told me this when we took motorcycle lessons because remember she pulled out the beer goggles
like,
for those. Remember that?
I'm good.
You were like, "Don't worry, I got this in the bag." Maybe that's why you didn't pass.
Funnily enough, I failed because I hit a cone.
Well, yeah, you didn't have the goggles on. How could you see?
I don't know what they thought I was gonna do. No beer goggles. Yeah.
So anyway, Dare is a pyramid scheme, and that's the episode. Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Just kidding.
But yeah, I don't know if that's 100% true, but I saw it on Instagram and it's been in my brain ever since.
It feels true emotionally.
Mm-hmm. Can I tell you a story?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Please do.
So today, it was not I who chose the episode topic. It was our Patreon members. They voted for this. So I put a poll out to our Patreon members a while back asking what my second Ghost Month topic should be. And the votes were very decisive. It was near unanimous, but also not. Kind of. There was a majority. So today, we're going to be exploring the legend of Bloody Mary.
I'm so excited for this one.
Me too, man. Before I get like too hard into it though, content warning, I'm going to be talking about blood a lot, as well as general violence and murder, including the death of a child. I will say that specific part comes from a folk story rather than like an actual provable real life event. I don't know if that makes a difference, but maybe it does, so I wanted to say it. So anyway, depending on the types of activities that you were into as a child, some of what I'm about to say might sound familiar, but for the uninitiated, When I say Bloody Mary, I'm referring to a few different things, but for right now, if you haven't heard of it, it's easiest to think of it as a game. And the way the game is played kind of depends on who you're with and also where you're from, but the version that I grew up with went something like this. All right, Kathryn, I want you to picture like late 90s, early aughts slumber party. You're like 12 years old. And you and the rest of your girls decide to put down your little Tamagotchis for a second and do something more fun, more interesting. And one of the girls says that she heard from her older sister that if you go into the bathroom at night with the lights off, light a candle, look into the mirror, and say the name Bloody Mary 3 times, a blood-soaked woman will appear behind you, and she will be the last thing you see before you are cut to pieces. And that, in a nutshell, is what I'm talking about when I say Bloody Mary. It's kind of like a little bit gameplay-esque. It's really associated with like early adulthood, childhood kind of age, particularly for girls. And also like kind of a ritual too. So throughout most of this episode, I'm going to be referring to it as a ritual, but there's a lot of different labels we can apply to this. So just to note, there's a little bit of fluidity here. However, I am going to pause because I am fucking positive that you encountered this in your childhood. So I wanted to ask, did the version that you grew up with differ from mine?
So it did, because we didn't have a candle.
Okay.
You were in 100% pitch black, which is probably largely why I, to this day, am afraid of the dark and mirrors.
There you go.
Those are like 2 of my biggest fears, relatively. But yeah, that was, I mean, yes, other than that, 100% spot on. It just was, you had to go in total darkness.
Okay, interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And that's cool too, because you and I grew up, we weren't like neighbors, but in the same part of the country, in the same...
Regionally, yeah.
we were the same. And so much of the Bloody Mary story, ritual, whatever you want to call it, is geography based. The steps that come into play in different versions of Bloody Mary vary super widely. We get different versions, mostly all across America specifically, yes, to parts of Europe. And there's like a kind of version of this all over the world, but when you go past a certain geographical point, the ritual changes and the story behind it changes a lot. But there are versions of this pretty much everywhere, is what I'm trying to say. It's one of those things that no matter what we do, kids just somehow find out about it. They somehow partake in it. So we're going to explore why. Real quick, I am going to give you some examples of how this differs based on where you are, because I thought it was really interesting. So,
Okay, yeah, I was hoping you would.
I
Yeah,
have a whole
that's cool.
section.
I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
It's interesting. So, a lot of people grow up how we did, thinking that you have to say her name 3 times. Sometimes it's 7, sometimes 13, which, both of those make a lot of sense. Magic numbers, unlucky numbers, they have a lot of superstition attached to them. I also read accounts where it's up to 100 times.
Oh my gosh, I wish it was 100, because
I would lose
I
track.
was always so scared that I was going to accidentally summon her. I'd be like in the bathroom brushing my teeth at night being like, oh my God, don't accidentally say Bloody Mary 3 times. But then I would get in my head like, oh my God, does thinking it count? Don't think of Bloody Mary. Don't think of, and I would be like, oh my God. Yeah.
And even then, sometimes it's not just saying her name that's part of the superstition. Sometimes it's saying, I believe in Bloody Mary multiple times, or sometimes it's, I stole your baby, Bloody Mary, which we will get into that. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, sometimes there are versions of this where you have to prick your finger first in order to draw blood, to have blood present in the air in the room. Everyone has their own version of what this part of the ritual looks like the summoning part of it. And then we get into what happens when Bloody Mary actually appears. And that goes in a million directions too. So a lot of the time she's a ghost, which is why we're talking about her during Ghost Month. Sometimes she's just a straight up corpse, like a zombie walking corpse deal. A lot of times she's a witch. And what she does to you also depends on where you are. So sometimes she'll choke you, sometimes she'll steal your soul, drink your blood, scratch you across the face. I grew up thinking she was going to cut me to ribbons or kill me, something like that. On and on it goes. But there are always a few key hallmarks in a Bloody Mary story. There's always a mirror, there's always a chant, and of course, there is Bloody Mary herself. And we see this pop up over and over again all across the decades as a story predominantly told by children for children. Adults tell the story as well because, like, hello, I'm an adult and I'm telling this story, but it's mainly seen in like an academic and historical sense as being a youthful thing, particularly a feminine youthful thing. It's considered like a girl activity. I don't think I ever actually knew any boys who played this. For me, it was like exclusively a slumber party with my girls thing.
Yeah, this was what you did when you got tired of light as a feather, stiff as a board. You know, like, yeah, for sure. This was the level up spooky slumber party thing if you were brave enough to tap into that power. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And when you have something, we've talked about this before, when you have something like this that's so widespread and so prolific across generations and cultures and backgrounds, it's so interesting because how did this happen? Especially, you know, before the age of social media when it wasn't easy for a kid in New Jersey to talk to a kid in Wyoming or something. How did stories like this spread so quickly amongst kids specifically? Mm-hmm. And we don't really know. Spoiler. In the 1970s, historians started trying to trace this story back to its origins and figure out, okay, was Bloody Mary based on a real person? Did this come from, you know, divinatory techniques that we've used in years gone by and it just morphed into this different thing? And so far, they started researching this in the 70s. They can only trace it back to the 60s.
What? Really?
Yeah. And that's pretty much all we've got. But it's because no one can agree on who Bloody Mary was in life because there are so many people that she could have been, and there are so many rituals that have elements and pieces of the modern Bloody Mary ritual that we know today. So we don't know when this started. We have no idea.
Okay. I didn't know because I know you're going to talk more, but I'm like, I thought I knew for sure who she was and what the story was. Sweet. Is that like another regional thing?
So that is a regional thing. It's a hugely regional thing, which I am going to dig into a few common theories about who she could be. But that's a perfect transition. I want to hear what your version of the story was, what you grew up with.
I always thought she was Mary, like Bloody Mary. Like, isn't that what they called the Queen?
Yes. Okay. So Mary the First of England.
Which queen was it?
Yes.
The first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's why I thought we knew that. Like, I thought that was a direct. It was her, and that's why we do this.
Yes. Okay. So that's what I thought too.
Okay.
I thought this was going to be an episode about Mary the First of England, King Henry VIII's daughter. That's what I thought this was going to be.
Me too.
That's not what this is going to be at all.
Okay. Oh, I love this. Oh my gosh. Okay. I was like getting ready to learn about Queen Mary. Okay.
Well, you are still going to learn a little bit about Queen Mary, but I'm not going to spend a whole hour, even though I could gladly. I will not spend a whole hour talking about her today. Real quick.
Okay.
So I'm going to roll through a couple of contenders, popular contenders for who was the original Bloody Mary. But if anyone listening to this doesn't hear their version of it, icecreamyscreampod@gmail.com. Please tell us what your version of the origin story is, because there's got to be thousands of versions of this out there. There are so many.
Please do.
Yes.
Because I'm like dying to know what all of them were now. I really thought that there was just the one. I thought that this was agreed upon. I didn't know that there were any other options.
Oh gosh, yeah. Okay, so let's start with what we know. We'll start with Mary the First. So she probably gets brought up the most when people ask who was the original Bloody Mary, because her nickname was literally Bloody Mary. And as for how she got that nickname, we have to go all the way back to her childhood. I am going to roll through this kind of fast. I apologize in advance, but if I say something that's confusing, just tell me. So Mary the First was the oldest child and the oldest daughter of King Henry VIII. So we're talking like 1500s here. And the spark notes of her trauma is essentially her dad very publicly and humiliatingly ended his marriage with her mom, Catherine of Aragon. And their marriage had lasted over 20 years. It was a very big deal. And he did this so that he could get with someone else, Anne Boleyn. And at the time, this was a very big deal because England was Catholic, and the Pope was not going to allow Henry VIII to leave his wife. Divorce was not on the table. So Henry was like, fine, screw you, screw Catholicism. I'm going to start a new branch of Protestantism specifically so I can leave my wife and get with someone else. And yes, it was way more complicated than that. If you're a historian, please don't come at me. But this is like, Cliff Notes. Now, Mary was not thrilled about any of this, mainly because her mother was Spanish and Spain, super Catholic. So she was raised to be very, very Catholic and live within those virtues and ideals. So in her eyes, her dad was committing heresy by doing this. But also, the kind of twist of the knife here is that once her mom and dad split up, she became an illegitimate child. So she literally went from being a princess to being a bastard pretty much overnight. And as a result of this, she spent her entire early adulthood, because I think this happened when she was 17 or 18, she spent all of those years watching her dad dismantle literally everything she had ever held sacred. Like, it's a very old story of daddy issues. They are nothing new, and this was like the queen of all daddy issues, which naturally built up a lot of resentment in Mary towards both her dad, but also Protestantism in general. Long story short, she wound up getting added back to the line of succession in the 1540s, and eventually she did become queen. And fun fact about Mary, she wasn't just a queen, she was the first official queen, and by that I mean she didn't have like a king ruling alongside her, or she didn't have like a son who was technically king that she was ruling for. She was the monarch, the authority in and of herself without needing a man there, which was a huge deal. I do have to say there are other women who are like rumored to have that title, but Mary is the first one that we can all agree on. Yes, she was like the first regent. I think queen regent is what the term is. So anyway, I digress. When she came into power, one of her top priorities was getting rid of all of this Protestant stuff that her dad had been cooking and bringing England back into the light of the Pope and Catholicism. And in doing this, she was real ruthless. She declared that heresy, which was basically just anyone being anything other than Catholic, was punishable by death, which led her to burn 300 Protestants at the stake in just 3 years.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it was a lot. I think she was only queen for 4 or 5 years, so this was like, she moved fast.
I'm having one of those memories where as you're telling this story, I'm sitting in our guest room of my childhood home because I remember having one of those like history books for young people or whatever. I got one on whatever. It was like the royal family or whatever. And I'm having like a flashback to learn, because I was like Team Mary because of what you said about her being the first official queen, like blah, blah, blah. I remember being like, oh yeah, what a badass, blah, blah. And I'm having flashbacks to learning how brutal she was and just having the biggest identity crisis of like, oh no, I was rooting for you.
It is kind of sad. And like, I get it.
Yeah.
Because holy shit, that is so much trauma, you know? But I mean, on the bright side, like her little sister was a really great queen. Which I'm sure doesn't make Mary happy. But...
Which I was just going to say, which I imagine was like a whole other thing that she probably had to deal with. Like,
oh gosh, there's like layers there. Because Elizabeth, her sister, was like, anyway, we don't have time to talk about that.
That was like the one that everyone, we'll live in that rabbit hole if we fall down.
Yes. So yes, she winds up burning around 300 Protestants at the stake. And a lot of these Protestants, they weren't, the wealthy, affluent, elite Protestants. They were poor. They were self-taught. They were lower class, which, among other things, made Mary just insanely unpopular. People really did not like her as queen. So when she ultimately died at the age of 42, history labeled her as Bloody Mary, and she has been known as Bloody Mary ever since. Personally, she is my least favorite of the 4 contenders that we're going to talk about to be the OG Bloody Mary. Like I said, I grew up thinking that it was her, but having researched the other ones, I actually think she wasn't at all. I think this is a case of coincidence.
Okay.
Like, we have the ritual and the legend of Bloody Mary, and we have this historical figure whose nickname happened to be Bloody Mary, and we just connect the dots because that's what our brains are trained to do.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm trusting the process. I trust you, but my knee-jerk reaction is, of course she's Bloody Mary. You know, I'm having one of those moments. Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah, because I think...
Okay, well, tell me more. I'm like dying to learn who you think it is.
So this next one, contender 2, you are going to recognize because it is Elizabeth Bathory.
Oh, okay.
She gets brought up a lot when people talk about the original Bloody Mary behind the legend. And also, fun fact, topic of our very first episode was Elizabeth Bathory. Yeah. So if you want to hear the details on her story, make sure to go check that episode out because it's chock full of great stuff.
Oh, God.
Spark Notes, again, is... Yeah, it is our first episode, so be nice. But
I know, I'm like, let's not brush past that. If you go listen to that, please come on back to this side of the catalog. Don't judge us too hard.
We were doing our...
Be gentle.
I stand by it. You did a great job.
Yeah, we did just the best we could do.
We did, and it was great, and I regret nothing. But yes, basically, like, just for the Bloody Mary part of this story, all you really need to know about Elizabeth Bathory is that she was said to have been a serial killer in the 15 to 1600s who allegedly tortured and killed over 600 women, and she is famous for such acts as bathing in their blood to preserve her youth, which conceptually, I do buy that more as the inspiration for Bloody Mary than I do Mary the First of England, because it has targeting of young women, it has blood, and it also brings a mirror element into it insofar as like a symbol of vanity or pride and personal appearance. However, knowing what I now know about Elizabeth Bathory because of the episode that you did, and knowing how she was treated, I feel pretty comfortable saying that she, in my opinion, is not the OG Bloody Mary. What do you think?
Well, I only have 2 to go off of so far. I will say I'm still team Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. Oh, I just said it twice. Oh my God, see, this is what I'm saying. Oh my God, I'm so scared. There's a mirror right there. I'm genuinely so scared right now. I hate this episode so much. Okay, I'm getting a little scared. Deep breaths. Okay.
I wonder if it has to be consecutive. Sorry. You go ahead.
I've said it so many times. Well, so have you. I think it does have to be consecutive. I think it has to be within 10 seconds. Right, Gina?
Yeah, 100%.
Between the 2, I'm still OG Bloody M, because I get what you're saying. Bathory fits it better, especially since part of the legend is she shows up in the mirror covered in blood, and Queen Mary would not have been... Symbolically, though, there would be blood on her hands, so there could be something... Between the 2, I'm still team OG, my personal OG. But I'm not going to give a whole... I've already spoken too much.
Okay.
I'll give my final result when you're done.
I don't think you've spoken too much, but I will give you a few more stories, and then we can discuss which one we think is the most likely.
Okay.
So...
I do love that Bathory was part of it, though. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a vague memory of seeing something about that when I was doing my research, but it was like, I was so scared episode 1. It was like in one ear out the other type deal, but I have a vague memory of that being.
Well, and it's
like
interesting when you research Bloody Mary, because that was kind of my experience of it, too, is I recognized the names that were used to, like, you know, this could be Bloody Mary, but... when you're reading about those people outside the context of Bloody Mary doesn't get mentioned at all. And so it's like only...
there's so much more.
It's only like if you're looking specifically for this information, will you find these names like connected, or at least like the first 2 that we talked about, connected to this in a way that like implies they were the original. Anyway, you want contender number 3?
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with the name Mary Wales?
I mean, I'm familiar with both of those words separately, so it's one of those maybe I've heard
Okay.
this, but I don't.
Cool.
I don't know for sure.
Well, I had never heard of Mary Wales before, but she is pointed
Okay.
to a lot as being a Bloody Mary or the Bloody Mary, and I do think this story presents a pretty strong argument. It is a folk story, so what I'm about to tell you is not something that we can prove happened in real life, but it is a legend or myth or whatever you want to call it. And the story goes
Okay.
that there once was a girl named Mary Wales with an evil father named Old Man Wales. Now, Old Man Wales loved money more than anything in the world except for his wife. So when his wife died giving birth to their daughter, Mary, he twisted that grief into hatred of their child, which sucks. But also kind of
Yeah.
a story that we see every now and then. It's a thing that happens and it's gross.
Yeah. Sadly, more common than it should
Yes. So Mary grew up underfed, she was overworked on their farm, and her dad only gave her rags as clothing. So a very poorly treated young girl. But despite this, she grew into a very sweet child who loved her father and just wanted to make him happy. And the older she got, the more she started to look like her mother, which made Old Man Wales hate her even more. One night, after getting drunk, Old Man Wales stumbled into Mary's room when she was sleeping and stabbed her to death very violently. He carried her down the stairs to their dirt-packed cellar, dug a hole, threw her in, and just left her there. 2 nights later, Old Man Wales was finishing up some chores in the kitchen when he suddenly saw Mary there, standing in a pool of blood, stirring an empty kettle. She said one word. And all the versions of this that I read, it describes her as like hissing this. Father. I don't know how you can hiss father. But yeah, that's like what she says. Very creepy. And that caused Old Man Wales to sprint out of the kitchen. Like, oh, hell no, this is scary. He got out of there. But when he glanced back, no one was there. There was no blood. There was no Mary. It was like she had never been there. A week later, Old Man Wales was reading the newspaper, like normal, when he glanced up kind of above the paper, like people used to back when newspapers were more common, and he saw Mary sitting just opposite him, knitting him a shirt drenched in blood. Again, she hissed, "Father!" And this time, she jumped towards Old Man Wales, and she was holding her knitting needles like a knife, kind of like she was ready to stab him. And Old Man Wales, again, ran outside as quickly as he could to get away from Mary, but not before he got 2 deep, long gashes in his back. At this point, Old Man Wales was way too afraid to go back into the house, so instead, he stayed in the barn for a week straight. After a while, with no further appearances of Mary, he decided to try going back in the house, if only to get washed up. So he went in the kitchen, he got himself a bowl of water, and he was getting ready to shave his face. So he went over to this little shaving mirror that they had hanging on the wall, and when he looked in the mirror, he saw Mary's face, with glowing red eyes, once again saying, "Father." And then she reached out of the mirror with long, sharp nails and slapped her father twice, giving him 4 gashes along his face. Once again, he ran from the house, but this time when he got to the barn, Mary was there, smiling at him and pointing up at the ceiling. He followed her where she was pointing, and Old Man Wales saw a noose hanging from the rafters next to a ladder. And without a word, he climbed up and obediently hung himself. And that's the story of Mary Wales.
Okay, well, obviously that's my new number one
Right? Like, I
contender.
found this one more than
That's
the
like
previous.
a direct, yeah, that sounds like a story that was born out of the stand in front of the mirror and say it. Why? Because, yeah, that's definitely my new, that's scary. I've definitely never heard that before.
I had never heard it either, and it's such a scary story.
Yeah. That's horrifying.
So you have, with this one, you have the blood, like we're saying. You have the mirror. You have the elements of vengeance and repressed rage. Like, this one really tracks for me, but I have one more contender for you. So I'll tell you that one, and then we can
this is
make
the
our
one
call.
to beat.
This is the one to beat. So this is the story of Mary Worth. I had also never heard about this. Are you familiar with Mary Worth? Okay. It kind of makes sense because who Mary Worth actually was is very contentious. Like, some people say, so, okay, it's basically she was either a woman who tortured and killed enslaved people on the Underground Railroad, or she was a woman who burned at the stake for being a witch, or she was a woman whose baby was stolen, hence the I stole your baby Bloody Mary thing way at the beginning. Or she could be a combination of all three of those things. Her story really depends, again, on where you are and who's telling it. Big question mark. But one of the most common versions of her story goes like this. There was once a witch named Mary Worth who lived in the woods and got by on selling herbal remedies. I had to think about that.
She sold drugs in the woods.
Yeah, she was part of the DARE program.
She's the reason they created the DARE program. Fun fact about DARE, it's because of Bloody Mary.
Man, we should teach that to kids. Anyway, yeah, so she's in the woods selling drugs. Locals feared her, but somehow, like, the village and Mary, they managed to coexist. Then, one day, young girls from the village started going missing, and the villagers couldn't find them anywhere. A few particularly brave villagers decided to go to Mary's cabin as a last resort just to see if Mary knew where the girls might be. But when Mary answered the door, she looked different. Almost like she'd gotten younger. They asked about the girls, and Mary said she didn't know anything. And that was that. The villagers just kind of went on their way. Then, one night not long after, the miller's daughter was in bed nursing a toothache using a remedy that Mary Worth had given her. When suddenly, she heard a noise. And it was a noise that no one else but her could hear. There was something beckoning to her outside, and she found herself compelled to go see what it was. She got out of bed and she started trying to go outside, but her parents caught her and were, trying and kind of failing a little bit to keep her contained within the house. So her parents start panicking a little bit, and they go and start rousing the other villagers, their neighbors, to try and get some help figure out what's going on. And when a few of them came outside, they noticed a strange light coming from the edge of the woods near the village. And when they went to investigate, they found Mary Worth standing there, glowing with unnatural light next to a huge oak tree and pointing a wand at the miller's home. Cue pitchforks and torches. We've heard this story a million times. Mary was caught. She was tied to the stake and burned alive for witchcraft. And as she was burning, she cursed the villagers, saying that if any of them dared to say her name in front of a mirror, she would come back to exact her revenge. After she died, the villagers searched her land, where they found rows and rows of unmarked graves, one for each of the girls who had gone missing. And that is the story of Mary Worth.
A compelling story.
A compelling tale.
But might I offer a critique? I think that one's too broad. Mm-hmm. That one's too, if we're going to say it's Mary Worth, we could say it's just any old witch. Mm-hmm. So I definitely am team story number 3.
Me too. I think Mary Worth, the story is interesting, but it doesn't have the hallmarks that I'm looking for. Like, targeting young girls, sure, but there was there was the mirror right at the end, but that could have been something that somebody just chucked in there. It's not like a pivotal
But there wasn't
point of the plot.
a mirror.
Yeah, and there was no blood. Like, the implication was that she was using the children's blood to make herself younger, but it's not an explicit thing that's discussed in the story. Yeah.
And the whole her saying, say my name in a mirror and I'll come get you, seems a little, where did why did she say that? Like, there
Right.
was no mirror. If the mirror was part of the living story, I'd be more into it. But it just feels kind of out of nowhere.
Yes.
It's a plot hole for me.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right, so do we think Mary Wales?
We think it was Mary
We think
Wells.
it was Mary
Yeah.
Wells. Okay, I'm on board with that. I will also throw a wrench into everything by saying there are lots of people who think that Bloody Mary wasn't actually based on a person or a story, like one original story. Or, so they think that she wasn't based on one person, or they think that whether she was a person or not doesn't matter because the legend and the ritual has turned into so much more than just a reflection of one story. So there's one historian specifically with very strong opinions about this, and his name is Alan, I believe it's Dundes. And Alan, I'm just going to call him Alan. I'm sorry if that's too informal for you, buddy.
Al.
Our friend Al. Him and Tony Thorne should hang out.
I was just going to say, how are we going to make this connection? Another Elizabeth Bathory connection. Wow, we really want people to go back and listen to episode 1, huh?
God. Do it. See what you find.
Go listen.
Go listen.
I don't give a
What
shit.
are you going to do?
Yeah. Let us know how great it is.
Yeah.
Please.
Please.
Please tell me I'm worthy. Love me. Anyway,
Alan guy.
so Al.
So this Alan guy. He thinks that the legend originally began as an initiation ritual into womanhood.
Okay, I could see
Right.
this.
And a large part of his argument rests on the whole bloody part of Bloody Mary. And the thought process here is that this ritual has a lot to do with the excitement and the apprehension around getting your first period for a few reasons. So, number one, the age group that we see engaging with this ritual are by and large young girls, many of them around ages 10 to 13, which is when that anxiety is the most prevalent. That's when you're waiting for it to happen or dreading it happening or, however your experience was. That's kind of the age that it occurs. And number two, all these rituals take place in a bathroom and feature what Alan calls the, quote, sudden appearance of blood. Which is not exactly how periods work, but I see what he was going for.
It's close enough. Yeah, to a young girl, perhaps it could maybe.
He's doing his best.
Yeah.
So there's this idea that Bloody Mary is almost like, it's kind of like saying Aunt Flo or any of those other phrases that you use to just avoid saying that you have your period. And as for the name Mary, he suggests that it could refer to the act of marriage, which for a long time, and still now to an extent, was seen as a really formative part of the transition into womanhood. So the expectation that someday you'll have a husband, and the age when girls start performing this ritual is the same age when that anxiety or that excitement or whatever strong emotion you're having kind of starts to set in. And this wouldn't be the first time that a mirror specifically shows up in kind of a marital divination context. So while I was researching this, I found this old ritual that I had never heard of before. Maybe you had. And basically what it was an old tradition where a woman would walk up the stairs backwards while holding a candle and a hand mirror with the hopes that when she looked in the mirror, she would get a glimpse of her future husband's face.
Oh, I've never heard of this.
Yeah, so it was like you would either see a glimpse of your future husband's face or you would see a skull, which would mean that you would die before you got the chance to find the one or get married or whatever. Yeah.
Those are two very extreme options.
Yeah.
Couldn't you find like a nice brunch with the girls? I don't know.
Where's the Palentine's? The Galentine's version of this.
Oh my God, remember Palentine's?
I'll never forget
Wait, that was
Palentine's.
so much fun.
Catherine and I threw a Valentine's party one year, and it was called Palentine's, and it was really fun.
And it was thrown at Gina's apartment, and we had rules to keep it for the pals, and one of the rules was nobody was allowed to acknowledge their significant other or touch each other at all. And if you did either of those things, you would get whacked with a wooden spoon.
I still have that wooden spoon because I wrote in Sharpie on this good wooden spoon, this is a Christian house. And it's still on that spoon.
Man, I hope everyone out there has as much fun as Gina and I have together.
I think if everyone does, the world is in a very good place.
Yes. Yes. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, she says, one Negroni deep and, like, ready to cry. Anyway.
Man, I love you so much. We just have it all figured out, don't we?
Yes, we do. That's why we have a podcast, Kathryn. Come on.
Listen, I'm drinking at 2:00 on a Wednesday in a very not sad capacity. So, yes, I'd say we do have it figured out.
We definitely do. I'm using my word of the day calendar as a coaster.
Hey, man, at least you have a word of the day calendar.
My mom got it for me.
Think of all of those who don't.
You're right. Well, if you ever need a word of the day, icecreamwhiskeypod@gmail.com. It's just becoming a bit.
Wait, I remember early on in this podcast, I literally texted Gina while I was editing one of our episodes, and I was like, I straight up said, do you have a word of the day calendar? Because I noticed every single episode, you would use a new, very sophisticated sounding word like once or twice. And then but it's always like a word I never heard you say. And you came back. I thought it was like, oh, haha. I thought I was joking. You came back and you were like, yeah, why? I use it every day. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you do. So that's the secret.
Today's word of the day, it's actually a phrase. It is, and I'm not lying, extract revenge.
Honestly, say no more.
It dates back to the 1500s, apparently.
Okay, wait, this is so relevant.
Yeah.
This is like so relevant to
Bloody Mary.
this episode.
All right, well.
Wow.
Sorry for using you as a coaster.
All right.
Anyway.
It's a sign of respect in our culture.
Yes. So anyway, yes, we have this like marriage mirror divination ritual. And when you see this ritual depicted, it's often accompanied by imagery of like a witch's shadow in the background. So the idea is that there's some second or third party, I guess second party because there's only really one person doing the ritual. There's another person who is a witch orchestrating all of this, which symbolically would be like the Bloody Mary figure. So in this, the Bloody Mary ritual is seen as a reflection of what for a long time were the two biggest stressors in a young girl's life, particularly by historical standards, which are both the anxiety of menstruation starting and also the knowledge of what comes after a husband. I will say, that's cool. I don't know about you, but when I was doing the Bloody Mary thing with my friends, I was just trying to like do something kind of weird and fun with my friends. But that's kind of the whole point. Is the argument is that it's not a conscious thing that you do. It's a subconscious physical representation of the feelings on the inside. Even if, you know, that something might result in like a creepy, bloody lady scratching you or stabbing you or whatever.
Yeah. I do that. I mean, that makes sense to me because there have been many, even just anecdotally, there have been many stories that we've discussed that there is kind of an underlying, you know, a woman became of age and then shit hit the fan, or, you know, weird shit happens when you're in that kind of coming of age time period.
Yeah.
Also, just folklorists love a menstruation metaphor.
Listen. I'm not.
How long do we want to make this episode?
I'm not a historian. I'm not a sociologist. I am not a folklorist. However, I do get a little bit bored by the fact that every time blood shows up anywhere, dudes are like, it represents periods. Like, not always. I don't think always. But also, like, and I'll give Alan credit. I think the symbolism within the ritual, like the period and the marriage thing, may have formed a piece of its foundation. Like, whenever this was first getting started, maybe, yes, this was a conscious or subconscious part of it. But I don't think that's why it persists now. I don't think that's why you and I grew up doing it. I don't think it's why kids now are doing it. I think it's more about something that you hinted at a little bit earlier, which is exerting control over your surroundings, but also like testing the boundaries of an identity that at that age has not finished forming yet. So like historically speaking, women and girls, as we know, had very little choice in how their lives went. And so whatever control that we did have, we were kind of forced to exert in like the quieter ways, gossiping, orchestrating social events, writing under pseudonyms, blah, 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 all of those things. And all of those things were extremely important as social tools, particularly gossiping and, socializing. But they're things that leave and left very little room for excitement and feeling daring and the ability to prove that you're brave and strong and are willing to face things that scare you. So I don't think it's a surprise that women and girls as a social group formulated our own way to give us like a little bit of a dash of fear while also proving to your friends, hey, I'm brave. Like, I could do this. I'm strong. It's like reaffirming the identity that you want to build at that age. That's what I think. I don't know about the period stuff. I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where could there be a metaphor in there? Yeah, sure. There could be a metaphor in anything if that's what you choose to see in it. That's, just to echo, that's certainly not why we were doing it. I wasn't going into the bathroom and staring in a mirror because I, needed a tan. That's not what we were doing at summer parties. But there's also this kind of extra layer of the control, like you said, the control that women have or do not have or have to kind of create for themselves historically was kind of rooted in the fact that, once you became of age and started bearing children or whatever, a lot of the only control women had was how they raised or were allowed to raise their children. Yeah. So there is an amount of power in that. So I'm like, maybe there's something there. I don't know. This is me. I'm trying not to fall down my own little rabbit hole here. I'm so sorry. But I do get a little sick of the over-symbolization of everything, especially we are in a time of transformation and there's a lot of stuff that means a lot of other stuff, and every single show or miniseries or movie is a metaphor for something else. And I do love that, and I think there's a very important place for that within our society. But also, sometimes girls just want to scare each other and be scared and be powerful, and sometimes that's just all it is. Yes. Whether it's something else for someone else. Maybe there was a group of girls in the 60s who were like, I didn't like what my husband looked like in that mirror. Let's all have our periods and scream in the mirror. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's something to that. But that's a different experience than the one I grew up in, because I grew up in the 90s, which was a very different time than in the 60s. Yes. So, there is a layer of that where it could be all of these things. And just somehow there are pieces of this legend that have stood the test of time and is still relevant to girls now, as it, today as it was back then, as it will be another 60 years from now. Yeah,
totally agree. And let's talk about the 90s for a second, because I didn't know this, but I found it fascinating. The 90s is when, the 80s and 90s are when Bloody Mary kind of had a boom in popularity. She's been around since at least the 60s that we know of. But it wasn't until the 80s and 90s that people were really, really talking about her. She started appearing in movies. She was referenced in TV shows. And so I dug a little bit more into why she was being referenced so much. And once again, it was the Satanic Panic. Every episode we come back to this, it feels like. But
yeah, yes,
seriously, anytime I research anything having to do with this time period, it all comes back to the Satanic Panic. Everything, every time.
It really does. I will say, sorry, this is a little bit of a steamroll, but my dad said something after our Satanic Panic episode. He said something like, wow, I didn't know I lived through all of this. This is fascinating, blah, blah, blah. And I just remember thinking, my knee-jerk reaction is, how could you not have known all of this was happening? There was so much of it happening. But retrospectively, that's exactly why people didn't realize they were living through it. because it was everywhere, in everything, woven into every single thought process anyone had. Like, you could not have possibly known that you were living through a panic because you were too busy panicking. Like, everyone experienced it, whether you were aware of the news stories or not. It was in everything everyone did. So that's not surprising to me at all that there was an influx of that.
Yeah, 100%.
When we were younger.
Yeah. And also, like, the timing of it's also interesting because it was so in the 80s was like second wave feminism was in full swing, right? Because that started in, I think, like the 70s kind of thing. So by the 80s, it was like full swing, early 80s kind of. And there was this real sense of rebellion in women against things like traditional gender roles, being forced to be the perfect, like 60s, 50s, however far you want to go back, housewife with, just fitting into that mold. So there was already this kind of built-in innate anger in women combined with the fear of all of this like satanic stuff, which could have resulted in Bloody Mary becoming like a storytelling tool to kind of embody that feminine rage a little bit while also provoking the zeitgeist. Like, it could have been women seeing this happening on, the silver screen, TV shows, whatever, and just being like, hell yeah. Like, get it, girl. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah. That's interesting that you bring up the 80s, because that actually does make me buy into the whole menstruation metaphor a little bit more for kind of, I don't want to say weird reason, but I feel like 80s we're getting into yuppie era when women's version of feminism was to be as not feminine as possible. Like, a sign of strength for women in the 80s was to wear the power suit and, not wear as much makeup and just be as masculine as possible. So I almost wonder if there was like this rejection of the symbolism of womanhood, and that's why she was seen as so bad and scary. I don't know. I'm just theorizing myself now. I just
too, because that also tracks with like the age that Bloody Mary tends to target, because that's, like we talked about earlier, that's kind of like the cusp of what was traditionally considered womanhood. So it's like, as the girls are crossing this bridge, metaphorically, you're stopping them and being like, no, don't become a girl. Yeah. Don't become a woman,
Yeah. And it's like, well, no, I'm not, I have to go have a career and all these things. I don't want to see my husband in the mirror or have children or all of those things. Just the general feminine roles. Anyway, this is all very fascinating. I'm like
so fascinating.
Trying so hard not to just like steamroll and roll down this hill, because there's so much. All of these things are kind of obvious now that you've said them, but it's like going back to the very beginning. Man, I was just trying to scare my friends.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it was. It was not any of this.
Yeah, that was my whole experience researching this, was just like poring over like academic articles and like interviews with kids and studies that have been done, and like just a lot of time sunk into the theory of what it is and why we still talk about it. And then I think it was like the day before yesterday, I was just sitting on my couch and I was like, dude, we're trying to answer the question, why do children do what they do? And there is no answer for that. Like, there will never be an answer for that, because children are not all the same person. Like, we were doing it for our reasons. A different girl or dude somewhere could be doing it for their reasons. Like, it all completely depends. And so it could be a subconscious manifestation of like anxiety about marriage or menstruation or whatever. It could be trying to prove your bravery to your friends, blah, 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 blah. But, like, at the end of the day, I'm kind of surprised that this episode took the shape that it did. Because, like I said, I thought it was going to be an episode about Mary the First of England, like Queen Mary. But the vast majority of the research out there, like the resources that exist to consume this story and learn about the ritual, are all trying to answer the question, why? And I think the answer really is just, why not? Like, I know that I'm not, a historian or something like that, but I think that really is what it comes down to.
Honestly, yes. As you were saying all those things, like asking, why are kids doing these things? My brain just kept going, who cares? Because they're children.
Right, yeah.
That's why.
That's why.
Like, Who cares why? And people do care. I'm sure many people care. But it's like, okay, why do kids still share that frickin' urban legend about the dog licking your hand or the person in the back seat,
or the hook man,
you know, with the lights flickering? Yeah, like, why do kids do any of that? I'm sure there is a psychological reason why. I'm sure it has to do with boundary testing, and I'm sure it has to do with all of these parapsychology thingamajigs that I know nothing about. But at its core, it's also just children interacting with each other and, like, being kids and doing their thing. And, like, I also wonder if kids still do that, not to be all elderly or anything, but I know one of the biggest changes from when we were kids to now is time is so much more structured. We had so much free time back in the day, and I do think that that is a big reason why these stories spread the way they did, because you'd go out on your bike, God knows where, for God knows how long, and, like, meet random kids that you'd never see again, and you don't know where they came from. They were just at the park one day. They're probably, like, in town visiting their grandparents, and, like, that shit doesn't really happen anymore. You meet kids at play dates that your parents supervise, or, like, at the music circle in this structured spot where you don't really have a lot of one-on-one interaction. All of this is to say I'm, like, getting way off topic, but I do think that like, I'm going to ask my niece if she's done the Bloody Mary thing, because she's at the primo age where it would be done. So I'll ask her to see if she's ever done it and, like, what her experience with it is. Excellent. That was fantastic.
I will say, for anyone listening to this, we didn't have time to talk about really a non-Western version of the Bloody Mary legend.
Oh, for sure.
But they exist, and they are fascinating. So research that, please, if you want a rabbit hole to fall down. Because particularly in Japan, there's a lot of really interesting stories that have parallels with Bloody Mary. So just, if that's something you're into, do a Google search. You will not regret it. It's interesting.
And if you have any non-Western stories for this, we could do a part 2. If
we easily could.
Any of you out there have any stories you'd like to share with us, and even if you don't have a non-Western story, that was a weird way of saying that. Even if you're just regular old American like me, please send us your stories. That'd be so cool to hear people's, like, experiences with Bloody Mary, because I'm sure even within the United States and UK and all that, I'm sure there's so many different experiences. Even us, we had kind of different experiences with it.
Yeah, and we were,
like, mildly,
when we were
but
that age, I think we would have been, like, what, an hour or two away?
Couple hours apart.
Hours, yeah. So, yeah, please send them in. It is fascinating and also my favorite thing. So please, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Do you happen to have a story for me?
I do, yes. So a couple months ago, we were very graciously invited onto the John T. Hans podcast, and we had the best time. It was a great conversation. Go listen to that episode. I don't remember when it came out. I think October. But Courtney's great. The discussion was great, and we had her send one of her own stories to us so that we could read it to you. And just for some context, because this is kind of an alarming story if you don't have this context, Courtney can see ghosts and interact with spirits, and I love her podcast because she's very open about her experiences with that. So go listen if you're interested. She has some really cool stories, and this is one of them that I am about to read to you now. It was the first week after I moved to New York City, and maybe only the second time ever in my life that I had taken the subway. I had just gotten to the city, and we were living really far uptown at the very tip-top of Manhattan, and our stop was 191st Street, which, if you've been there before, you know that stop is 17 stories underground into the earth. You can feel how far down you're going, and it's like the air almost does get a little thicker. When I moved, it was in August, so it was certainly hot and peak humidity for New York. I don't remember what we were going to do. It was something really boring, like, oh, let's go and get some stuff at Target because we don't have enough pillows. You know, something really basic. I do know. I have that experience every time I move anywhere.
I never have enough pillows, no matter how many I buy.
You can never have enough pillows.
Agree.
That's like the easiest way to make a place like comfy cozy.
Yes.
Yes. And they're always so expensive.
So fucking.
Yeah.
It's because I drank.
So fuck.
I can't stop giggling. I can't. Okay, I'm sorry.
So we get down to the subway platform and the energy is really intense. Right away, I was pretty shocked. And again, this was my first week living there, and I want to make it clear that I had only been to New York one time before I moved there. I had just kind of forgotten that the subway platforms don't have guardrails, and if you live here, you know some of them do now, like some select stations do, and they're putting them up. But for the most part, they don't. Anyway, we were at 191st, and we were waiting for our train to come. Sometimes the express trains will zoom through the middle track, and there were some papers kind of flying around in the air as one of the subway trains was passing in front of another one, this and that. It was just super overstimulating because there was just so many people. Some babies were crying, some people were running around, there was music going on. There's so much that it was just kind of hard to guard myself and grasp what was happening. Then add the 119-degree heat, 100% humidity on top of that, and it became so overwhelming for my senses very quickly. So then I hear almost like a scream or a moan, not like a shrill, bloody murder scream, but someone moaning for help. And I turn quickly over my left shoulder to check it out, and there's a man laying there on the tracks. I know it's a bad way to term this, but it was like half a man. It looked like a person just from the torso up.
Ugh.
He was in sort of a white, grayish button-up with a scraggly striped tie and a dark charcoal gray overcoat that was all patchy and ripped up. It was dragging itself along the tracks and reaching up and moaning toward me. My breath dropped out and I looked at all the people next to me and I realized very quickly, oh, nobody else is seeing this. Okay. It was comforting in a sense because there wasn't really a man down there, but it was also extremely uncomfortable because it forced me to reckon with my reality. Is what I'm seeing actually there? I was so overtaken by the lights, the sounds, the smells, the temperature. Why would my brain create something even more horrible to add on top of that? On top of this weird city shit sandwich of just trying to get my bearings. And my boyfriend kind of heard my breath drop out and he was like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I glanced down to where I'm seeing the man pull himself across the tracks, reaching up at me. And again, I know my boyfriend's not seeing it, so I just say yes, even though I'm not okay. So this man was clearly a spirit, and the way I interpreted it was that this was someone who had died down there, and it didn't seem like an accident to me. Maybe he had been pushed, or maybe he jumped in front of a train and was cut in half. Yeah. And I want to make it clear, I did not see his legs or the bottom half of him anywhere. It wasn't like he was split. It just was the top half of a man pulling himself and moaning like a true Ebenezer Scrooge ghost story type of wailing for help.
Oh, God.
I know. Then our train came and we left. It was just one of those moments where I just didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to do with it or about it. I tell people just say a prayer if you believe in God, because I don't know what else to make of that.
Well,
And that's the story.
the Target trip is ruined.
100%. There are no pillows that could
No.
undo what was done.
No.
Yeah.
No volume of scented candles could make me forget that.
No, not at all.
But we can try.
So that's horrendous.
That's terrifying.
Can you imagine?
Man,
This is your first subway ride in your brand new city, and you're just like, there's a casual half of man wailing in pain on the tracks.
This is one amongst a number of reasons why I respect her so much. Because can you imagine just like seeing that and then being like, yeah,
You have to just
I'm
be
all
okay.
right. And no one else can see this
Yeah.
and it's okay. Like, God, Jesus.
Yeah, that's horrendous.
Yeah, thank you,
sorry,
Courtney. I was like, we'll stick with our other stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll stick with not seeing that shit. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Courtney.
Anyway. Yeah, thank you, Courtney, for sending that. If anyone else out there has any stories, I almost said stories like this. I highly doubt there are many more stories like this. But if you do have one either like this or something completely different, please send it to us. We would love to be able to share it at the end of one of our episodes. We love when you guys tell us your stories. Also, friendly reminder, we are still sending out free stickers. If you leave us a review, just take a screenshot of your review so we can see it and know who sent it. Email it to us, icecreamuscreampod@gmail.com with your address, and we'll send you a free sticker. And yeah, I think that's all. Thank you all for joining us. And until next time, little spoons, keep it cool.
Keep it creepy.